Hi, today the Hindu news analysis for August 16 dated 2023. We will be seeing Hindu news analysis, and these are the topics, 7 articles that we have taken up for today's discussion. We will be starting our discussion with consumption based poverty estimates. The idea simply is recently Niti Aayog released some data about multidimensional poverty in India. Now, as you know, multidimensional poverty takes into consideration a lot of other factors apart from your income as well. Authors here are trying to discuss whether this is the right way to identify and to calculate how many poor people do we have in India, or we should just go back to income based methods. Second, we will be discussing about what is happening in Myanmar. As you know, Myanmar is still the rule of hunters, that is, Myanmar's military is still in power. However, recently they did announced that they will be trying to hold elections. They reduce the jail sentence. We will be discussing about that as well, and we will be discussing why is it at the Cauvery water sharing issue is in news. As you know, Cauvery water sharing issue has been in news for long time, especially between states of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Cauvery river mainly starts from Karnataka, then flows into Tamil Nadu as a part of it in Puducherry and Kerala as well, where Tamil Nadu has been demanding its fair share of water, claiming that Karnataka is not giving enough water. Why is this topic in news? We will be discussing that. Then from prelims point of view, we will be discussing first. Yesterday on the Independence Day, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister in his address to the state said that education as a subject should go back to stateless. As you know, the education right now is in concurrent list of 7th schedule, but he feels that subjects such as education should go back to the state list. And then we will be discussing about Bindeshwar Pathak, the person behind the revolution in India. He passed away yesterday. His contribution, a bit of detail about that. SLAP International why is this organization so important in news? So what is the connection of this organization with the Swachh Bharat initiative? Then the amended Forest Conservation Act that has changed the definition of the term deemed forest, after which Odisha does not have any deem for it. And in the end, we will be discussing about Supreme Court's plan of expansion of infrastructure. Yesterday, because of Independence Day as a day of speeches, many people made very important speeches, starting with Prime Minister. Every Chief Minister in a respected states also made their speeches. Even the Chief Justice of India made a speech. All of them highlighted what is the plan going forward in the next year or so. In his speech, Chief of India talked about he is planning to improve the infrastructure of Supreme Court, how the new eCourts will come up, how the courts will expand even further. We will be discussing that. So without any further delay, let us see our first article for the day. The first article, as we discussed, is on the topic of multidimensional poverty. What exactly is multidimensional poverty? See, when you talk about the word poverty, usually for a very long time, the word poverty was just associated with the income, right? You earn less, you are poor. You earn more, you are not poor. That was the ideal definition of poverty for a very long time. That poverty was just based on your income. However, there was a new criteria that started coming up a few decades back. The idea was multidimensional poverty. The idea was that a person may be poor or rich not just because of their income, but because of other factors as well. Factors such as, let's say, education, factors such as standard of living. These include a lot of things: access to healthcare, access to education, access to basic amenities. All of these are taken into consideration to decide whether a person is multidimensionally poor or not. Now, recently, Niti Aayog that prepares the multidimensional poverty report for a country said the number of poor in India have reduced drastically. Similarly, at the international level, also when the multidimensional poverty report came up, they also showed a similar kind of trend. Niti Aayog report says that the percentage of poor in India, that is multidimensional poor, have gone down from 25% in 2015 to 2016 to 15% in the next 4 years. Now, if you actually see this comparison is about pre-covered era, also around 135 million people were lifted out of poverty. Means crore 13 the half 13 and a half people are not poor anymore again. When they say poor, they mean to say multidimensional poverty. They don't mean to say income. Apart from income, there are other factors as well that are taken into consideration at a global level. Similar kinds of report is published by UNDP. UNDP, as you know, stands for United Nations Development Program. So that at the international level, we have a similar report called Multidimensional Poverty Index published by UNDP and the Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative. They also prepare a report on countrywide basis. They have also shown that in case of India, there has been a decline in poverty. Now the author says that this is obviously good news, but is something that you unexpected not really see. Every country, especially developing countries that are increasingly becoming developed at a growing increasingly year after year, you have expected the number of poor people will reduce. So there is no shocking in there. There is no shocking result in that scenario. However, the question in this case is, are these numbers actually true or not? The points out that the authors are making is it is easy to compare peoples on basis of their income. You can say someone is earning more, someone is earning less. So one person is rich and one person is poor. For example, if I earn 500 rupees and a day, someone else earns 1000 rupees a day. So you know that this person is rich and this person is not rich, as rich. However, when you include other factors, now I will show you what are the factors. I will just come other factors such as nutrition factor, maternal health factors such as cooking, fuel, access, are not sanitation, drinking water, housing, etc. When you include these factors, also this becomes a very tricky. Now, how do you compare this? Comparing numbers is easy, but comparing all these factors, because see, someone might have access to cooking fuel but may not using it because they don't like the taste of it. Someone may have access to drinking water, but maybe the drinking water is not available 24/7. Maybe it is available at very odd hours. So how do you actually compare these? It's a classic case of comparison. And political science, in political science also the problem is you can compare numbers. For example, if you say in India voting percentage is 65%, but in America voting percentage is 50. You can compare it easily that okay, in India there are more people that go to vote, so India is better democracy. But on other hand, if I say in India we have better justice than US, there is no definition of what is better justice. Better justice can have a different definition for different people. So justice, liberty, equality, these are the terms in political science which cannot be compared. Similar is the case where how do you compare these kind of factors? Till by author are saying that multidimensional poverty that we have may not be really be the best way forward. They are suggesting that we should make a change in how we measure the number of poor people in India. Why? Because there are issues regarding their measurability. You cannot measure them properly. So especially when you are measuring them at a reasonable short intervals. For example, if you prepare this index every alternate years, obviously the year of school will not change drastically. Sanitation, drinking water will not change drastically. So when you prepare these kinds of illnesses very alternative year or every year, how do you measure these kinds of factors? That still remains an issue. The author also says that there is a lack of data from side of government. For example, expenditure consumption expenditure have not been updated, released. Very long consumption expenditure means how much a person is spending on consumption. How much are you spending on food, how much are you spending on education, how much are you spending on your house, on your clothing, etc. That gives you a very good indication about what exactly is the level of poverty. So again, what the author wants is that poverty should be measured. A poverty should comes in terms of number, should comes in terms of factors which can be measured and compared easily, rather than those values which are not easy to compare, rather than those values which are not easy to measure. In terms of numbers, they say that there is a need to change. This is what is the need to change first. The consumption survey. Should conducted the numbers come up, and they are ones that will give you much better value of how many people are poor in India or not. As you know, if you look at India's history, there are multiple commissions that have come up that have suggested different poverty lines in India. In fact, even right now, when you talk about poverty lines, there are different types of poverty lines. There is one poverty line that the World Bank gives how the peoples are considered poor or not. There is one poverty line that is given by Tendulkar committee in India, but not Sachin Tendulkar. He was not a part of this commission. It's a Tendulkar commission in which they have given these numbers. So even the definition of poverty in terms of how much are you earning or how much are you spending is not uniform. All of that needs to be uniformed, and that can only be done once the government survey numbers comes out, because that is the most authentic source of data. This is a suggestion given by author here. Now the National Multidimensional Poverty Index, which is a matter of discussion here, which is released by Niti Aayog. As you know, this is the second edition. Second edition, the one that is being discussed in this article. This is the second edition. It is the first started in 2021, and at the international level it has been going on a far long time. We just wanted to do an Indian version of it. For example, just like at international level, we have ease of doing business index, right, where in different countries are ranked as per their ease of doing business. In which country do you have an easier time to conduct your businesses or not? Similarly, at the national level also, we have an ease of doing business index, where different states are ranked according to how easy it is to conduct business. Similar is the case where National Multidimensional Poverty Index has come up with, which mirrors the international index that is conducted by UNDP and Oxford. It measures the poverty across the multi-dimensions, mainly around health, education and standard of living. Total of 12 indicators are taken into consideration, and these are 12 indicators. I will tell you: child and adult and mortality, nutrition, child and adult mortality, maternity health, years of schooling, school of attendance, cooking fuel, sanitation, drinking water, housing, electricity, assets and bank account. Whether a person is considered as poor or not, this is a highlight of 2023 progress report that has come out. As you can know, that 12 indicators have shown improvement, which is a good sign of moving forward. India is on try to achieve the sustainable development target, or 1.2 specifically talks about reducing multidimensional poverty at least by half much ahead of 2030. So we are on track. There are data extremely handy. If you quote them, some of this in the mains exam, see, there is a chance of this being in in the prelims as well. When you have, let's say, a question based on this data, they will not ask you very specific data, rather they will ask you a trends. For example, they might give you a statement which says that multidimensional poverty index of 2023, all 12 indicators showed an improvement, or they might say 10 out of 12 indicators show an improvement. So if you trains are more important rather than numbers. If you remember the numbers as well, means mains examination point of view, that means even better. But please do make a point of remembering the trends of poverty, schooling years, health, etc. Now the trends is increasing or decreasing in rural areas, in urban areas, in different ages groups, because that is how the question can be asked in these kind of examinations. Next is a topic of international relations, that is GS paper 2. What is happening in Myanmar, as you know, is an extremely important neighbor of India. Now, for those who don't know what is happening in Myanmar for the past few years, let me just give you a brief recap. Myanmar is under the rule of junta. So, junta is pronounced as a Myanmar junta, simply means military. So Myanmar, whose earlier name was Burma, was also under the rule of British, just like India. British had ruled over them for a long time. After the British gave them independence for a very long time, the military took over the country of the country. They controlled the country in such a manner that only military bosses ran the country. Then after 21st century started the military thought, okay, let us give away for democracy, because of demands all around the world, America, many European countries, even India started demanding that military should give away to democracy. Military made many important changes in the constitution. For example, in Myanmar's parliament, 25 seats are reserved for military. So just consider this, if this is the parliament, 25 seats are reserved for hunters, that is military. So elections only happen on 75% seats. For elections, they will only happen on 75% seats. Now for any party to come to power, they have to get 50% plus 1 seats out of just 75%. Just imagine how difficult that is. You are contesting on only 75 seats. Out of that, all you have to get 50% plus 1. Military made these changes so that no political party can come to power. However, when the elections were held, NLD, the National League for Democracy, that is the most important and the most famous party of Myanmar, they came to power. That is the National League for Democracy. This party is led by the most famous leader, Aung San Suu Kyi. This party is led by her. She was extremely famous. The military did not want her to become the leader of the country, so the military made a law. The law was specifically made for her. They wrote in the constitution that for someone to become the president of Myanmar, their children also have to be the citizen of Myanmar. Again, for someone to become the president of Myanmar, their children also have to be the citizen of Myanmar. The law was made because her children had taken citizenship of foreign countries because they thought they are not safe here. She gave them citizenship, a foreign country, so they settled there just to ensure that she does not remain in power. This law was made. Even though her party won the election, she could not become the leader of the country. But anyways, the country was running under her orders only. She was not given the official post because she was still running the government. The military did not like it. That is why as soon as their term was over, the next election were held. Military again in 2021 imposed the military rule. That military rule continues even today. So that is the brief background history Now it is in news right now. In February 2021, when Myanmar junta is a military again took over the power, they arrested most of the famous political leaders, including Aung San Suu Kyi. She was
Aung San Suu Kyi. She was arrested on bogus.
Famous political leader, including Aung San Suu Kyi, she was arrested on bogus charges. Many false cases were filed against her. She was facing a sentence of over 20 years, in fact 27 years in jail. What has happened is military just announced that they will be cutting short her sentence of 6 years from the jail term. That is, she was given a 6-year jail term on some other case that has been removed, but she is still facing charges on other false case for 27 years. This decision by military to cut down her jail term is being seen as a step forward from militaries who's trying to bring back democracy now. Why would the military try to bring back democracy? See, the simple idea in today's globalized world, no country can exist all alone. Every country requires help, good relations, trade relations with other countries around the world. Except China and to some extent Russia, most other countries have kind of boycotted Myanmar. India has not, and welcomed to that as well. But if Myanmar's military really wants help from other countries, really wants a good trade, good relations, they would have to bring back democracy. US, for example, have putting a lot of pressure on junta of Myanmar to bring back democracy. Although they have delayed election, although they have imposed a state of emergency, but still the Myanmar military does not control the entire country. There are protests going on around the entire country against the military. The common people, the political parties, all of them are protesting against the decision of the Myanmar junta. That is why they fear that they might not really be in power for long time. Rather than just extending their rule, the junta might be making plans of having elections in some way or other, so that they only win most of the seats. But how will this happen? This remains to be now. This crisis in Myanmar affects the entire neighborhood. As you know, the multiple Indian states shares a border with Myanmar, and that makes India also a party to the problem. On one hand, many Western countries, including US, want India to put pressure on Myanmar. They want India to tell the Myanmar military that you should bring back democracy. But the problem is we cannot afford to neglect our relationship with Myanmar. Project with Kaladan multimodal project, we are trying to ensure that there is a alternate connectivity to our own northeastern states. We also have India Myanmar Thailand highway that was also in news recently. It goes to Myanmar, so India needs Myanmar on good terms. So it's very precarious situation for India. On one hand, we want Myanmar to go back to democracy, but on other hand, we do not want Myanmar to have bad terms with us. In fact, Myanmar has made very key role when it comes to insurgency in India's northeastern regions for a long time. Insurgents in India's northeast use Myanmar as a place of shelter. Whenever the Indian armed force go and attack these insurgent groups, they just cross over the border and they then hide in Myanmar. That is why we need help on military to solve these issues as well. That is why for India it's a very tricky situation. On one hand, we want democracy to come back. India also in fact has a very close connection with Aung San Suu Kyi. In fact, did a graduation from India from LS Simon College and University. So in India wants demography to go back, but on other hand, we do not want the Myanmar junta that is being supported by China right? Now to go closer to China and against India, so it's a very balancing act that India needs to now go ahead with Myanmar. As I said, it's not that entire country is completely ruled by junta, but there are protesters going all around. Many people are still in jail. Junta still does not control large part of its own country because people are protesting in different part of the country. This is the location of Myanmar. As you can see, there are multiple Indian states that are sharing border with Myanmar. In fact, I would like to give you this small homework. Tell me a couple of things in comment section first, which are Indian states that shares border with Myanmar. And second, we have a kind of an agreement with Myanmar. The agreement is that tribes are allowed to cross over the borders on both the sides of Myanmar. Some tribes can come to India, some Indian tribals can go to Myanmar. You have to tell me in the comment section this agreement is valid for how many kilometers. And so if an Indian tribe or a tribal wants to cross over to Myanmar to meet their family members, how long or how far can they go without visa, passport, etc. Similarly, for travelers coming from Myanmar to India, how far can they travel without these documents? Do tell me in the comment section. It is an important piece of information, especially with respect to what is happening in Myanmar. More now, as I said, Myanmar is no stranger to military rule. Myanmar was also under British for a long time. It got independence around the same time as India in 1948. In fact, if you remember your history lessons, I hope that you do, before Government of India Act 1935, all the acts I would introduced by British for India, like Government of India 1909, 1919, all of these were valid to India and Myanmar. Both that is Burma. It was only in 1935 that separate laws were introduced. One was Government of India 1935 and one was Government of Burma Act 1935. But before that, all of these laws that we had were same for India and Burma, because it was all also under the rule of British. It's only 1935 that separated. British took it as separate entity. Anyway, they got independence in 1948. Had a very long period of military rule between 1962 to 2011, when the military decided to bring back democracy. However, they still reserve 25% seats of parliament for them. Even the NLD, Nationally for Democracy, won the election. Even then, they came to power from 75% seats also. They have managed to get the military tenure. Managed to get the majority when the tenure got over. Next election were to be held, and the military thought they will again lose the election. They did not want to be out of power. That is why they said no, elections are not happening properly. They are not fair elections. We do not want these federal elections to go ahead. So these imposed military rule once again, and since 2021, Myanmar is still under the junta rule. As we speak to you today, now these are the lot of impacts of this military coup. Obviously, the international image is taking a beat. They have isolated diplomatically except a few countries, and you can accept which countries like China, Russia, etc. have still been in contact, have still been in helping Myanmar, because for a military coup to be successful, for a military to keep and ruling over their countries, for a military to keep the people scared, they need weapons and they need ammunitions. From where they are getting it? They are getting it from China. Since then, they have been also faced sanction embargoes. Many people from Myanmar have been banned from going to other countries. Many students have been banned from going ahead and taking up higher education courses, let us say in US, European countries. So it impacts the entire population. It has emerged as a puppet of China, because China is the one helping them out. It's not a sign of India, because India shares a large border with Myanmar. As we discussed, there are multiple projects that India is building with Myanmar. Within Myanmar as well, it's not good for an Indo-Pacific plans, because we do not want more nations than our neighborhood to be under the influence of China, as is helping in case of Myanmar. Now comes to third topic of the day. Let us see this topic in the next video. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.